Right, grade 12s. We continue then with the workshop questions on number system. We're starting on page 4 with question 22. Question 22. And this is a very nice question to understand the number system, where they fit in. So they provide you with a list, and then from the list of numbers above, choose one that is irrational. Now we said rational means you can write it as a fraction. So irrational cannot be written as a fraction. I have to round it off. And that's why this one, the square root of 35, is irrational. The square root of 35 is irrational. Then the cube root, so you can just as well press your calculator like this. The cube root of 27, and the answer is 3. A multiple multiply of 9. So 9, 18, 27, and that would be 45. Multiples. Then a prime number. We said a prime number is a number which has only two factors, 1 and itself. 1 is not prime, and 2 is the only even prime number. So all the other prime numbers are odd numbers. We have to look at odd numbers. So now we have to look at which of these have factors. 2 and 3 are prime numbers, and then the other one would be 37. So you could have chosen any of those. Then a factor is a small thing that divides. What can divide into 44? And it would be 2. From that list, I think it's the only one. And then the product of 6 and 24, and 4, which is 24. That is very easy. Right. Number B. The diagram below shows a sequence of patterns made with small triangles. So you can draw the next one here, use a ruler, and make sure that you draw it precisely, neatly, with the correct number of tiles there. So in the first place, we draw the next pattern, then complete the table. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Easy. That's the triangles. And then how many tiles? Now, if we look here, there's 1, there's 4, there's 9. So here is a pattern that is forming here. You can count yours there, but it will be 16. And this one is 25 and 36. How do I know that? This is the set of square numbers. I can see 1, 4, 9, 16. It will continue, 49, 64, 81, 100. So how many tiles will there be in the 100th pattern? So this is then this square number. So it means I square this one. So if we square 100, then it will be, there will be 4 zeros. 4 zeros there. 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros that we will have there. How many tiles will there be in the nth one? We're looking at our pattern and we say it's square numbers, so we're going to square n. What is the special name? We've said it now over and over. It is square numbers. Make sure that you know this set, because they often ask questions on square numbers. Number 23. Again, we have a list of numbers there, and we have to choose odd number. So it must be any odd number. So that would be 9, the odd number. A negative integer. Remember, an integer is positive or negative, but it's a whole number. So a negative one will be negative 2. Irrational, again, rational, I can write it as a fraction. Irrational means I have to round it off. And it's usually this one, the square root or pi. They are examples of irrational numbers. And here they're asking us a prime number again. If we look there, the only prime number is 2. The prime number is 2. Here, list all the factors. Factors is something small. I divide. So it is numbers that can divide into 21. So it will be 1 and 21. I start there with 1. 21 divide by 1. 21 divide by 2. No, that's impossible. 21 divide by 3. How many times? 7. And there is then my list of factors of this one. Right, question 25. Lucia's mass is 60 kilograms to the nearest kilogram. So that means half a kilogram is plus or minus 0.5. Half, that maximum error, half of the unit. Now we have to complete the upper and the lower bound. So you add it and you subtract it. 61.5 and 62.5. The lower and the upper bound. Question 26. The first 5 terms of a sequence are, write down the next 2. We need to find a pattern. So I can see here, this is plus 5, and that is my pattern. So plus 5 will be 26, and plus 5 will be 31. Write down the 15th one. Now, they didn't ask it, but it's always nice to have the pattern, because then it's much easier to get that. Otherwise, you'll have to sit on your calculator. Plus 5, plus 5, plus 5. Now, remember we spoke about this formula. A plus n minus 1, D. This is the formula that we can use here because we add. So, what is A? A is the first term, which is 1, plus n minus 1. N stands for any number. And then D is the common difference, and that is the 5 that we have there. So we multiplied in, and then it is 5n plus 1 minus 5, which is minus 4. If you now substitute this 15 in that, then it is 74. So we can just do that on the calculator. So it is then 5 times 15 minus 4, which is equal to 71. Which is equal to 71. So the answer there is 71. Question 27. The prime numbers less than 50 are. So these are all prime numbers. What is a prime number? You can only divide by 1 in itself. 1 is not prime. 2 is the only even prime number. So in the first place, they say the prime factors of 195. What can divide into 195? You have the list there in front of you. So you'll sit and say 195 divide by 2, divide by 3, divide by 5, until you find the correct ones there. So I have 3, 5, 13, and 23. So it must give you a whole number. So you just do that with your calculator. Write 12 as the sum of 2 prime numbers. So we can see now what will give us, and that will be 5 plus 7. There's my prime numbers. I choose them there. Write 28 as the sum of 2 prime numbers. So you'll have to see, what about 5 and 23? So 5 plus 23, but it could also be 23 plus 5. They say in 2 different ways. Perhaps you can find another one. 13, 25 plus 23. Okay, and then write 50 as the sum of 2 prime numbers. So it could be 7 plus 43, 37 plus 7 will also work. 37 plus 7. No, 37 plus 13. And there might be more. You can try them there. Some prime numbers are written in this form. Say they gave us that formula there. For example, 3 squared minus 2. And now we have to write 3 other prime numbers less than 50, which also works like that, but it must be prime numbers. So I've got 5 squared minus 2, that's 23. And then 7 squared minus 2, 47. So there might be more. And then write a prime number less than 50, which is in this form. Now look there, now it is plus 2, a prime number, which is n squared plus 2. This is error and trial. There is no formula there to get it out there. I have 11 squared plus 12, no, plus 2, sorry, plus 2, plus 2, which is equal to, write down a prime number less than 50 that is in this form. No, this is not going to give you 13. So you'll have to error and trial until you can find one there. Good morning, grade 12s. This is then a part of the workshop on number system. So we have quite a few questions here on different levels. Right, the first one says, at noon one day the temperature was negative 9.5 degrees. By midnight it has fallen by 3.6 degrees. What is the temperature? So that means we are going below further, and you actually have to add those two. This is actually minus 3.6, and the answer is then negative 13.1 degree. Right, question 2. Insert brackets to make the following statement correct. Now this is an error and trial question. There's no formula that we can use here. So you'll have to keep on trying to see if you do what, that you get that answer of 3. This is where BOTMAs, those BOTMA rules are very important here. So what will make it 2? If we just say 6 minus 9, then we're going to get a negative 3, isn't it? That one is not going to work. 3 minus 4, if you first do that, then we get negative 1. So then we still don't have an answer. Negative 1 plus 5, that will not work. So you'll have to try to see what is going to work here. Look at this one, 6 minus 9, but then we get negative 3, so that's why that one is not correct then there. Another method will be, so this is now where I error and trial. So another method would be, for instance, to say 3 minus 4, which is negative 1. And negative 1 times 2 is negative 2 plus 5, and that is then 3. So that would be the correct one. So it's just error and trial. The nth term means that is your sequence, that is your pattern, that's the rule that we have there. And they provide you with a formula, n squared plus 2. N stands for any number, the 5th term, the 4th term, the 10th term. That's what n stands for. And now they want the 4th one, so all that we're going to do is to substitute. So 4, it's important that you always substitute in brackets, 4 squared plus 2, And the answer is then 18. Use your calculators. So on our calculators, we use brackets. 4, close the bracket, squared, plus 2 is equal to. Make sure that you know how to use your calculators. Write these fractions in order with the smallest first. Now, when we get these comparisons, we have to change them to the same thing, percentages, or usually we change them to decimals. So 33 divided by 50 is 0.66. 2/3 to divide by 3 is 0.667 recurring. And 6 divided by 10 is 0.6. When we compare them now, we look in the first place at the first decimal. So now we see all of them are 6. So that won't determine which one is the smallest. Now we look at the second one. There's another 6, there's another 6, but here is a 0. That's why 6 out of 10 is your smallest number. And the next one, if we look now at the third one, here it's a 0, but there it is a 7. So it will be 33 out of 50. And the last one is then 2/3. And look that I also write them in the original given formation, not as the decimal. You will lose a mark if you do that. Question 5. Work out. So all that I do there is on my calculator, 43 to the power of, look, you will see there is a button, x to the power of 3. Use that one. Is equal to, and they say write the full calculator display. So I got 79507, all the numbers, the full display. And now they want us to round it off to the nearest 1,000. Now remember, that rounding is always half of what they say. So what is a half of 1,000? 500, isn't it? So we have to look at this one now. Is this more than 500? Yes. So that means I have to round up, which makes it 80,000. So you're going to look there, and the 5, because it's 507, I will round up. Change 5.6 meters into kilometers. We'll have to divide here with 1,000, 1, 2, 3 places. So it is then 0.0561 kilometers. Change this into millimeters. This time I need to multiply with 1,000. So it's 15.3 and then 2 more zeros. I times with 1,000. Question 7. The length of a mirror is 15.6 centimeters correct to the nearest millimeter. Now, when they work with different units, it's sometimes difficult. So I find it easier to first change this one now to millimeters. There's 10 millimeters in a centimeter. And then half of 1 millimeter is now plus or minus 0.5. Half of 1 millimeter is plus or minus 0.5. And this is those lower and upper bounds. So now you add or subtract that, which makes it now 156.5 or 155.5. And then you will see the answer is given in centimeters. So I'm going to change now just back to centimeters, which will make it 15.55. And this one in centimeters, 15.65. 15.65. Question 8. Write your answer in standard form. Now first we have to do the sum. You'll have to use brackets here, otherwise we won't get the correct answer. Now on your calculator, there's a button at the bottom which says 10 to the power of x. Can you see that one? This is what we're going to use here. So brackets, 2.6, 10 to the power of x, negative 3, close the bracket, plus another bracket, 9.1 times that 10, and negative 4, and close the bracket. So I got 3.51 times 10 to the power of negative 3. It's a decimal answer, so that's why it's 10 to the power of negative 3. Remember, standard form means only one digit, only one number in front of that point to change it there. And then the last one, the distance from Buenos Aires to Wellington are so many kilometers. Now here's a nice one to show it here. What is standard form? One digit times 10 to the power of n. So the one digit is the first number. And what is the first number here? 1. Okay, and then how many places do you move this one? Look here. 1, 2, well, actually from there we move 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is times 10 to the power of 4. Times 10 to the power of 4. Right, page 2. Rewrite this calculation with each number rounded to one significant figure. So we must first do that to change these numbers to one significant figure, each of them. So 13.5 to one significant figure will be 10, because it's not more than 5. 16, there's one significant figure. This will be 20. 4.8 to one significant figure, the 8 will influence there, so it is 5. Minus 22, so what is 22? 20, because the 2 won't influence it. And then this is divide by, and 13 is then also 10. So that's rounding it to one significant figure. Now they say use your answers. Don't do it on the calculator here. Use this to get your answer there to one significant figure. So it's 10 plus 30, divide by 5 minus 2 that we're going to do there. I have it that it's 30 over 5 minus 2. You see 20 divided by 10 is 2. So 30 divided by 3, and that will give us an estimated answer of 10. Then they say use your calculator to find the original calculation correct to 3 significant figures. Now it would just be good if you could use extra brackets there, otherwise you're going to get wrong answers. And then we do it on our calculator. So on your calculator, brackets, 13.5 plus 16, close the bracket, is equal to divide by another bracket here, 4.8 minus, and now we have to use those brackets also there, 22 divide by 13, close the bracket, is equal to SD. Look, I got 9.49257, and they say rounding it off to 3 significant figures. Remember, significant figures work from the left. So 1, 2, 3, so it would be 9.49. Your answer would be 9.49. Question 11. The highest mountain in Argentina is Aconcagua. its height is 6960 meters. Now here comes the maximum error. Correct to the nearest 20 meters. Half of that unit, half of 20, means it will be plus or minus 10. And now they say find the smallest possible height. So we just have to subtract the 10 there, which makes it 6950. Only want the smallest one there. Question 12. Which of the numbers below is not a rational number? What is a rational number? I can write it as a fraction. Decimals or vulgar fractions, plus or minus, that is rational. Now the only one that I cannot write as a fraction will be this one. I'll have to round it off. Press your calculator to make sure, but you'll have to round that one off. Right, the next one is number 13. Number 13. So we have a list of numbers again. From the values, write down the smallest one. I need to change them to decimals. So this one is 0.0, just 0.72. I divide by 100. We've got that one. This one is 0.7. This one is 0.07. And the last one is 0.072. Remember, if you see that sign, you divide with 100. Now we need to find the smallest number. And the smallest one, we're going to look at the decimals and the decimal places, and we start with the first position. So if we look now here, this one is a 0. That one is a 7, so that won't be the smallest. There's another 7. Here's again a 0 in the first position. And here's another one in the first position. Now, which of those numbers are now the smallest? This one and this one are actually the same. Can you see? Here we only have 0.07, so that one is the smallest, 7 out of 100. The next one says the largest number. The largest number. So obviously these ones are now out. So now we're looking at the first place, decimal place, and that's a 7. There's a 7. And here's a 7. Those are the ones with a 7. Okay. Here the next one is 0. The next one is also 0. And this one is a 2. So this is going to be the largest number, and that is then 72%. 72%. And now we've already seen that this one and this one are the same. So 0.072 is equal to 7.2%. It's equal to 7.2%. Right, question 14. An integer n is such that it lies between 60 and 70. Look, there's a limit. You must the whole time think of those numbers. Now we need to find a number which is prime in that list. What is a prime number? A prime number is only divisible by 1 in itself. 1 is not prime. 2 is the only even prime number. So there's only 2 factors, the number 1 and the number itself. And you'll have to test them there. So it is 61. It will be odd numbers because 2 is the only even one. So you test the odd numbers, and the next one is 67. A multiple of 9, we know that's 63. And what square number do we have there? 64. 64. The table below shows the average monthly temperatures in those cities. Work out the difference between the highest and the lowest one. But now remember, we work with a thermometer. So this is positive values and this is negative values. So if you're already negative and you go down, then you're not subtracting but adding. Okay, so what is the highest temperature? And this is the highest temperature is 1. And the lowest temperature will be this -9. -9. So the difference between the two is then 10 degrees. And then the highest recorded temperature for July was X. This is 21 above the average for July shown in the table. Work out the value of X. Now the average for July is -9. And so from 21 to -9, we have 13 degrees. Question 15. Choose one of the symbols given above to complete the statements. And now we've got X is 6, Y is 7. So obviously X is more than Y. 6 is more than -7. But now here we have to square them. So it is 6 squared. And it's vitally important that you substitute in brackets and the 2 is outside. Do it like this on your calculator. Otherwise you're going to get wrong answers. And then the 7, look at the same thing, in brackets and the square outside. This is 36, this is 49, so it's going to be less than. You shouldn't get -49, +49. And then the last one, y minus x, so -7 minus 6 is -13, and 6 minus -7 is +13. So this is again less than there. Right. Question 16. Question 16. Write 0.48 correct to one significant figure. So here we are. There is one significant figure. You remember, you don't look at the 0. The first one must be a number, not 0. So will the 8 influence the 4? Yes. So it will be 0.5. 0.5. Find an approximate answer by rounding each correct to one significant figure. It's like the question we had just now. So one significant figure will make this one 10. One significant figure will make this one 6. Now look at this one. One significant figure is there, which will make it 0.5. So 10 minus 6 times 0.5. BODMAS, I'll still have to look at BODMAS. So it means first that half of 6 is then 3, and 10 minus 3 is equal to 7. And then calculate the exact value. So now on our calculators, we press 9.87 minus, and I'll use brackets there, 5.79 times 0.48, close, is equal to, and the answer is 7.0908, full calculator display. Can you see? I have to write down everything then there. Right, question 17. Sequences, geometric sequences, because we draw patterns. The diagram shows the sequence of dots and lines, and we have to draw the next one now there. So you'll have to draw it very nicely, not just not a rough one. It must be very similar. So now I will have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, and then also here. There's my shape. Okay, then they say complete the table for the numbers of dots and lines. So dots we have now, and here we have to find a pattern. And you can see that every time it is 3 more. So this one will be 13, 16, and 19. How many lines are in the pattern with 99 dots? So you have to find that pattern there. Now, there's a very nice formula, A plus N minus 1D. And this works actually very nice if you know this. So A is your first term. The first term here is 4. N stands for the number 99. So what is 99 minus 1? 98. And D stands for the common difference. So what is the difference every time here? 3. So if you substitute a 3 then in there, and if we just do that calculation, I got 298. You see, that's much easier to sit in error and trial on your calculator. Let me just take you through this again. That is the formula that we use. This is for an sequence where you add or subtract. And this is what we call A, the first term. N is how many, so that's where I got the 99. And the common difference is the plus 3 that we have here all the time. You multiply those two and add the 4, and then we can get it. Now, even to get the next one, you can also use that formula. So this is then in general, so it is then, we'll start there with 4 plus, so I'm still using this. Stick to the n minus 1 because I must find n, and the common difference is 3. And if we simplify this, just remember we multiply in there, then we have 3n, and 4 minus 3 is 1. There's my formula. Much easier than sitting and trying to find that one. And to find the last one, 85 lines, so now I can just equate this one to 85, so 3n plus 1 is equal to 85, and then I get that the number of dots is 28. Once you've got that formula, it's then very easy. Remember this one. Remember this for A is the first term, D is the common difference. It will help you a lot. Question 18. Work out. Again, I need to use BODMAS. So this one's answer is 15. Question 19. The mass of a meat pie is 432, correct to one significant figure. So what does that mean? Write the mass correct to one significant figure. This is where one significant figure is. So will the 32 influence that one? No, because it's not more than half. But I need to keep the place value. You can't throw that away. It's not 4. I must keep the place value. This was 1,000 there. Arrange the following in order of size. We change them all to decimals. We've seen this now. 0.03 divide by 88. 0.03409. Got that one, and that one is 0.04. Again, when we have to compare them, we look at the first decimal place. There's a 0, there's a 0, there's a 0. Then we look at the next one. Now I've got a 3, I have a 4, and a 4. So this is the smallest one, 3/88. And then I can look at the next one, 0.43, 0.4, so there is a higher one. So it will first be 4%, and then it will be 0.043. Write the next two terms of the sequence. Again, you must find the pattern now. What is common difference? What do I keep on adding? A half, isn't it? So it is 2 and a half. And then write down the 12th term of this sequence. So I will just keep on adding, or I can make use of my formula, A plus N minus 1D. Remember this formula that we looked at now? What is A? What is the first term? A half. Plus, now we want the 12th term. 12 minus 1 is 11. And what is the common difference? Also a half. So it is a half of 11 plus a half. and that gives me 6. And then the nth term, again, let's use our formula here. So it is a half plus n minus 1. I must find n. The common difference is a half. We have to multiply it in here. So it is then a half n, and then plus a half minus a half is, so it remains a half n. Right, so we'll continue this worksheet in a second lesson. Thank you.
This week on It's a Wrap.
I've been there. Gas ran out more than 3 times. It takes 3-4 days for them to fill it. Where does the money go to? Become like a big store where you hold people. Why don't you leave us in our little places where we behold and let us come to court, and if it is a criminal case you want us to be. But now you put us in prison to try kill us slowly, or are you trying to get justice? Because if it was justice that the Namibian system is after, they would test every inmate that they bring in, because they know that it's Corona, it's the COVID time. They want the country and the people of Namibia to take COVID so serious, but yet the lawmakers and the enforcers of the law don't do that. Prisoners was just brought and thrown into a cell. Doesn't matter where you come from now, if you have it or not.
Angela Prusa, chairperson of the Cannabis and Hemp Association of Namibia, has long been lobbying government to legalize marijuana and shared her thoughts on the frequent arrests of cannabis users and dealers.
It's quite shocking in which violent manner the police is acting towards these individuals in comparison to the crime that is being committed, because essentially you need, for a crime to have been committed, there needs to be a victim. And when we look at the majority of cannabis arrests in Namibia, there is no victim.
Akili, 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 akili. Will you wash your hands with me? I want to wash my hands with you. Come on, I will show you what to do. Wash your hands in clean water. Wash your hands, wet them with the water. Wash your hands, now add some soap. Scrub your hands in the soap and water. Scrub above and below between the fingers too. Scrub under your nails and scrub-a-dub-a-doo. Rinse your hands in water. Rinse them clean, rinse away the soap. Dry your hands and go.
Akili, why do we wash our hands?
To wash away the germs.
Akili, what are germs?
They're like tiny little bugs on your hands, and they can make you sick.
But I don't see any germs on my hand.
That's because they're so tiny that you can't even see them.
Oh wow, I want to wash the germs away. Will you wash your hands with me, Akili?
Of course! Wash your hands in clean water. Wash your hands, wet them with the water. Wash your hands, now add some soap. Scrub your hands in the soap and water. Scrub above and below between the fingers too. Scrub under your nails and scrub-a-dub-a-doo. Rinse your hands, rinse your hands, rinse your hands in water. Rinse them clean, rinse away the soap. Dry your hands, dry your hands, dry your hands and go. Great job, Haruma! Can you tell me the 4 things we did to wash our hands?
I can try.
1.
Wash our hands with water.
2.
Put soap on our hands.
3.
Scrub, scrub, scrub our hands all over.
4.
Rinse our hands clean with water.
That's right! You got it! Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash the germs away.
Dink jy sy het nog steeds abandonment issues?
Is moontlik.
Ons moeite met die sprokies. Ek probeer so hard om my kind gelukkig te maak, maar ek kry dit net nie reg nie.
Probeer net help, dis al.
Jy doen niks sonder bymotiewe nie.
So jy hou van die tattoo?
Nee. Maar jy kan nie liefde koop nie. En beslis nie myne nie.
Jy regular.
Am I that predictable?
Jy is 'n gereelde klant en ons net so 'n manier om koffie te drink.
How do you like your coffee?
Gewoonlik swart sonder suiker.
Does black and bitter only pertain to your coffee preference?
Ek hou maar net van my koffie sonder melk. Hoe gaan dit op bal raak slaan na 2 glase wyn?
That was part of my plan.
Wat? Om haar tipsy te maak sodat jy kan wen.
I'm terrible with pata.
Many countries that have passed their first peak of COVID-19 are experiencing a second rise in cases. Is this a second wave of infections, and could even more waves lie ahead? Previous pandemics might give us a clue. The 1918 Spanish flu was the most deadly pandemic in modern history. It killed at least 50 million people. Its second wave was the most deadly by far, killing millions more than the first and third. More recent outbreaks, such as SARS and swine flu, have also had 2 or more waves, so it looks like the COVID-19 pandemic could have several too. The World Health Organization has warned about the dangers of a deadly resurgence. Many countries and places have seen infections accelerate after bringing their first waves under control. These rises aren't necessarily new waves. They could be spikes. Spikes are rapid rises in cases that aren't sustained, whereas waves happen over longer periods and often contain several spikes or peaks. Second waves only take place after a first wave has retreated. Many scientists believe more waves are inevitable and think a worse one could hit during autumn or winter. Some other coronaviruses spread faster when the weather is cold. If this is the case with COVID-19, it would put health systems under huge pressure. Many people are still vulnerable, and immunity to the virus might only last a few months for those who recover. It's also possible that mutations to the virus could lead to new waves. Hundreds of mutations have been found, and some could potentially make the pandemic more severe. One mutation may have already improved the ability of the virus to bind its spike proteins to human cells. This strain of the virus appears to unlock cells more easily and has become dominant around the world. It's unknown how the virus will continue to change, but further mutations could make it even more dangerous and harder to control. A reliable vaccine would help solve many of these problems, but it may take many months or even years to find one. Until then, we all need to make long-term lifestyle changes to protect ourselves from further waves. How are you learning to live in a world with COVID-19?
And welcome to the She Word, the show where we discuss trending topics amongst women across Africa.
Girl.
7 years old. Do you know why you're here?
In 1997, I was filmed by an American news crew at the place I was being held. A shrine run by a priest dedicated to the worship of deities. I was labeled a Chukoshi, a wife of the gods, paying for a crime committed by a family member.
Okay. The purpose of sharing my story was to say, you know, you may have gone through something, a traumatic experience. You are still able to have life. You have life, you can live life, you can contribute to society, and that's what it should be about. It's not really about like victimizing because I honestly don't like watching it.
Now in its 6th year, the Syrian conflict has impacted heavily on the most vulnerable. More than 2 million children were forced to leave their homes. After 3 weeks at Idemeni, a waterlogged camp in northern Greece, Mohammed Al-Khalil and his family of 4 are desperate to relocate.
حياة صعبة هون، خيم ومطر وبرد وحمام ما في وأمراض ونحن بكل الأحوال ندور مكان يعني آمن فلقينا المنظمات هاي الأمم المتحدة حل بالنسبة لنا، لأن احنا ندور الأمان وندور مشان أطفالنا، مشان ننسى الأيام اللي مرت علينا ونتأمل إن شاء الله خير يعني.
But for single mothers like Nisreen Chico, who is stuck at the border shared by Greece and the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, the wait has led to desperation. Her husband was killed by a bomb in Aleppo 3 years ago. These days, she's consumed with protecting her 5 children.
حاسة إنه كثير صعب أنا أولادي نعيش هون. ما فيني أتحمل، ما في. يعني صار لي 10 أيام هون ولا يوم نمت برياحة. هن بيناموا أنا لا.
Nisreen is not alone. Narin worries about her 2-month-old baby, Delberin, who has contracted a lung infection. She's unsure whether he'll survive.
في معه مرض فيروس، في معه التهابات ما بعرف حرارة، في معه سهل تراجع. خدنا على المستشفى صار 14 هون أنا. امبارح جيت على أساس ما في شيء، جيت لهون كمان نفس الشيء. أولادي كلهم هذول كلهم مرضانين.
UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, is providing shelter for the thousands of children and their families trapped here. But it's not enough.
A lot of families with young children have spent weeks, night after night, in the rain, in the cold, under the open sky. The small tents that they have had are not good. It's not proper shelter.
Keeping the children warm is a priority. The refugees burn anything in sight just to keep the cold away and avoid hypothermia. Meanwhile, back in the camp at Idemeni, Mohammed, his family and other refugees make the journey to a nearby hotel, the first stop in the relocation process. For this family, at least, the possibility of a new life is beginning. But unfortunately, for far too many others, life has become hopeless. And as long as the brutal war in Syria goes on, it's unlikely that any of these children will see their birthplace in the foreseeable future.
ever before, football fans demand unique insight and analysis. The Football Review is much more than a highlights show. Bold, provocative editorial that goes beyond conventional reporting, setting the agenda for football discussion. Champions League, Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, Liga 1, and much more. Want genuine insight with hard-hitting editorial? Need compelling premium football content? The Football Review. Best, bar none.
Hi beautiful souls, this is Nikita Winkler and I'm here to share easy tools for stretching that you can do just about anywhere. This is a demonstration, so what's most important is that you take the time that your body needs in order to release the tension that it has. So let's get started. In this session, we will be stretching the spine. We'll be folding and unfolding all the way from the head to the tailbone. This is a little bit more technical, so once you understand the technique, you can go ahead and do a couple bit more repetitions. All right, so before I get started, it's called a roll down and a roll up. I'm going to take an inhale, and on the exhale, I'm going to first release my neck, and then one by one, slowly, the upper spine, middle spine, lower spine. When I reach midway, I'm going to bend my knees all the way as far as I can go. Just to make sure that there's no tension in the neck, I'm going to shake my head yes, and shake my head no. If I'm feeling a lot of tension, I can go ahead and tap the back. Or maybe ask my daughter, son, friend to do that for me. Alternatively, give yourself a shake, or a twist, or a swing. Notice that there's no tension in the upper body. How do we come back up? First, I'm going to bend my knees, drop my tailbone, and zip my core up and stack the vertebrae right back on top of the tailbone. No tension in the arms. Keep the shoulders relaxed. And the last thing to unfold is the head. When you reach the top, you might feel a bit dizzy because there's been a lot of blood rush to the head. So what's very important is that you stay grounded. Catch yourself with your breath. Big inhale. And exhale. Let it fall right into the ground. Do a couple of repetitions, and that's going to really release tension throughout the back. Alternatively, use a ball, an exercise ball that you can just lie over. Same thing. It rounds the spine, releasing the tension in all the vertebrae. Wonderful. I hope you feel good after doing this. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to breathe, and happy stretching.